I talked about last year organization, coordination, and communications. You're doing it. The election's going to be fantastic. Who knows? I think you're going to gain at least two congressional seats here in Oregon, maybe three. They tell me you could elect a governor and you could elect the Senate in Oregon, which is incredibly important for redistricting, which will help you continue to build this movement and move forward. But I am here to ask you, what are you going to do on November the 3rd? No, you're going to vote on November the 2nd. What are you going to do on November the 3rd? No, you're going to stay exactly. You're going to celebrate the night of November the 2nd. But when you get up on November the 3rd, let me suggest to you, that's when the most important work begins. Because usually what happens is you have an election, and I'm just using Congress, but this happens in all the state legislatures across the land. The day after the election, leadership races begin. Who is going to be the leaders of the Oregon Senate? Who's going to be the leaders in the Oregon House? Who's going to be the leaders in the U.S. House of Representatives and the United States Senate? You know, what you've heard, and maybe you didn't recognize, all across this nation, people are begging and demanding leadership, principled leadership. Do not allow that to get away from you. And I would suggest, as I suggested to some of your leaders this morning, is that you start right now working on a meeting with your newly elected officials. If you just take, let's say the Republicans in Oregon go from Greg Walden, the only one in the Republican delegation, to 4 and to 5 in the Republican delegation, you need a meeting with those 5 members. And before they go to Washington for orientation or anything else, you need a meeting with them. And you need to ask them point blank, and Bob referred to it. Are you going to Washington to further your career, or are you going to Washington to advance the conservative principles that we elected you to advance? That's a very key question. And if they say, we're going to advance the principles by which I was elected, then you ask them, who's going to be your leader in the upcoming House of Representatives? And what is going to be your agenda in the upcoming year of the new Congress? And I got a few suggestions for you. First and foremost, you want to ask whoever's running for leadership, most importantly, the House Speaker and the Majority Leader of the Senate, if we take the House and the Senate, what are you going to do on the first day of the new Congress? What are you going to do? Well, first and foremost, in my mind, in order to send a message of certainty to the American people that they didn't just send a bunch of politicians up again, is you repeal Obamacare that first day. That will send a very... Now, we all know that if it does get through the Senate, which would be very difficult, but if the House passed a bill repealing... It only takes one bill. It says House bill, whatever the number of the Obamacare bill is hereby repealed. That's the bill. And you vote on the bill. It's very easy to do. And you send it over to the Senate. It may be hard to get it out of the Senate, but the American people see you fighting for what they believe in, and that's a very strong, strong message. And then the second message that has to be sent in order to reinforce this certainty that you can look at, that these extremists out here can look to the future and feel good about the future for their children, is you've got to deal with the issues. Now, you don't let the new leadership stand up there and say, we're going to reduce spending. I heard one of the leaders recently say, we're going to go back to the spending levels of 2008. I'm sorry. I don't think you worked hard just to reduce spending to 2008. What you worked hard for was constitutional government, which means you don't work towards just reducing spending a little bit. What you work for is reducing the size of government. In fact, I would submit you don't ask them to balance the budget. You can balance the budget tomorrow. Raise taxes to 90%. Take care of everything that you ever earned, and you can balance the budget and pay for all the spending. It's not a balanced budget, ladies and gentlemen. It's reduced size of government and return this government to constitutional principles. It's saying the tax system is unconstitutional in this country. And I don't want you just to do a flat tax. I want it replaced. I want you to tax consumption, not income. I want the fair tax, in my opinion. I want something to replace this onerous, oppressive tax system that's coming out of the federal government. That's number two, to provide certainty. And what people aren't watching that's happening in the Obama administration that he is doing without congressional approval, with all these czars and stuff, there is a tsunami in itself of regulations and rules that are being written as we speak that will completely destroy our economy if they are put into place. So those new leaders need to stand up and say, at least a 2-year moratorium on regulations until we get our act together and a new president. No more rules and regulations. Those are the kinds of things that I would suggest that you demand of your representatives that you are sending to Washington. And no gobbledygook, no Texas two-step. We want it plain and simple. We want to look you in the eye, and we want to ask you, how are you going to represent us? We want to know, what are you going to do to keep this country safe? Obama says, and you're not listening, is that if we pull out and we don't fight these terrorists, if we return to the Clinton years where terrorist acts are treated like criminal acts rather than acts of war, then you're going to be safer. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? We're going to be safer when Iran gets a nuclear weapon. We're going to be safer because North Korea has a nuclear weapon. We're going to be safer because we're no longer going to go after the bad guys and kill them or put them in prison. No. We're going to stand firm. We're going to support our Defense Department, and we're going to go after the war on terror, and we're going to win that war. That's where we are. So there are a lot of other things that we could talk about here, but my point is very simple. You have worked so hard for so long for this day, November the 2nd. Don't waste it by turning it over to those that are elected, as wonderful as they are. Because let me tell you, there's a thing in politics and a thing when you get elected. It's that I'm going to fight, but when I turn around, I want to see an army there. You're not demanding that they be something different than they are. You're telling them, we have this army. We have these 16 million people that Bob was talking about. We have this wonderful group of eagles. We will provide the army for you if you'll just do what you said you would do for us. We will be there for you. We will support you. If you need us to go storm, what's the newspaper in Portland that's so wacky? Yeah, if you want us to storm that building, we'll be there to storm that building, and we'll be there for you. We'll be there for you. Then they with very strong confidence, accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. So, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't about extremism. This isn't about crazy people. I got to tell you, Todd Palin was up here, and I told him, I was on Dancing with the Stars. Oh, he's still here. I was on Dancing with the Stars, and my first dance was a cha-cha to Wild Thing. And have you ever heard that, that song, Wild Thing, I Think I Love You, And I'm up there shaking my booty, a former majority leader of the House of Representatives, and people you couldn't believe it. I had a great time. So it was time to go in front of the judges, and that homosexual Bruno, the first thing out of his mouth was, "You're crazy as Sarah Palin," which was a badge of honor, I must say. So it's not about being crazy or the name calling or all of this. It's about those kids sitting over there at that table. It's about the fact that when we are the age of these World War II veterans, and it's time for us, as they did, turn this country over to them, then we have shown the responsibility of turning over a country that we can be proud of, a country that is full of liberty again, a country that most importantly will provide the opportunities for those children that you're turning it over to live better than you do, to have a better life than you did, to have a wonderful future. And isn't that what this is all about? This is about a country that we understand based upon a God-given constitution, a country that believes in Jesus Christ and the Lord God, and understands that He gave this to us. And He gave it to us to turn it over to our children in better shape than we found it given to us. That's what this is all about. So this is no time to party for a week. So when you've done your duty and elected those people on November the 2nd, we go right back to work and make sure that we build a country that we can turn over to our children much better than we found it. Thank you very much, and God bless you for all that you've done. Thank
you. Tom DeLay, ladies and gentlemen.